Brett Yormark said what we've all thought. There are different rules for the SEC. Let's get locked on Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another special edition of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by FanDuel. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and The Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network. Appreciate you making it your first listen today and every day. We have got some hot button topics in this one, including the targeting call, non-call, that is still looming large from that Arizona State Texas Peach Bowl this week. And then taking a look at the Bears going on the road to Hilton Coliseum and taking on the Iowa State Cyclones, number 3 team in the country. Boy, that's going to be a battle on Saturday. But first, let's start with Brett Yormark. The non-call at the end of regulation in Arizona State, Texas, was a disgrace. Everyone in the country realized that. Everyone. I mean, there were Texas fans who are the most hard-headed of them all out there saying, oh, yeah, that probably should have been a targeting call. And it could have changed the entire game. I mean, Arizona State probably holds the ball to the end of regulation. And, yeah, they had some troubles in the kicking game. So did UT. But they could well have kicked the game-winning field goal in regulation to go to the semifinals of the college football playoff. Who knows? Cam Scadaboo is probably kicking the game-winning field goal. And instead, it's a non-call. Arizona State has to punt. The thing goes into double overtime. And, of course, Texas prevails in double OT. They make the plays in overtime, and they win the game. And it really took away from one of the great college football games we've ever seen. Who knows how much that will live in the lore of that game if we just forget about it, that there was this terrible missed call. But Brett Yormark certainly is not forgetting about it. The Big 12 commissioner stood up for all of us in the truck stop conference and put out this statement. I've had multiple discussions seeking clarity surrounding the targeting call in Arizona State's final drive of the fourth quarter with Richard Clark. Moving forward, we need to address CFP officiating to ensure national standards are developed. These standards will be crucial to the CFP's future, and I look forward to discussing them with my fellow committee members when we meet next. Talk yo mess, Brett Yormark, because this should already be a national standard. In the greater eyes of college football and Charlie Baker, they think there is a national standard. But for those of us who follow it every week and are in the mud every week, we know that there is not a national standard across college football. There's a standard for the SEC, and then there's a standard for everyone else. And it was embarrassing to see during the Peach Bowl in the final minutes of what was one of the great games in college football history. Because up till that point, it was everything we love about this sport. It was this awesome comeback, Cam Scadaboo putting the team on his back, and Texas, completely choking the game away. 2 touchdowns, 2 two-point conversions. It was spectacular theater. And then it became everything that football is not, or everything that we don't want football to be, right? A dangerous helmet-to-helmet hit. And what's the only thing worse than that? Not calling a penalty, saying that hit is okay. It was a disgrace to college football. And for Brett Yormark, that was the second call that week that showed the double standard of the SEC, the calls that they get and the calls that the Big 12 don't get. Because lest we forget what happened in the Texas Bowl, bit more of a blowout, sure. But Ashton Hawkins for Baylor, toe taps in the end zone. They call it a touchdown on the field. They go to review and say somehow that is not a touchdown. Okay, it's just the Texas Bowl. Baylor probably wasn't going to win it anyway. They lost by 13. But then you take it into the final minute of a college football playoff game where everyone in the SEC was laughing Arizona State out of the building, thought they shouldn't even be on the same field as the Texas Longhorns. And that's what happens. Texas in dire straits, hanging on by a thread to avoid one of the great chokes in the history of major football bowl games. And then they get bailed out with that. A clear helmet-to-helmet hit targeting 101, and they go to the monitor and say, nope, nothing wrong with that hit. The very hit that we are trying to take out of college football, in football in general. They say that's all right when the SEC team does it. That's all right when the Texas Longhorns do it. Because we need them in this thing. We need them in the college football playoff semifinal. We need an Ohio State-Texas Cotton Bowl. Who's going to care about an Ohio State-Arizona State Cotton Bowl? It's ridiculous, and they should be ashamed of themselves. And Brett Yormark is just saying the quiet part out loud. Hey, how about we make sure the rules are even for all of us? I'm sick of watching the Big 12 get screwed. I'm being like latched into this. You know, I hate the A&Ms and the Vanderbilts and the Mississippi States who just pound their chest saying, well, it's the SEC. We stand up for the SEC. But the injustices that happen to these other conferences, and specifically the Big 12, are sick of it. We're all sick of it. Brett Yormark is sick of it. And it sucks that a game came down to that call. And again, credit to Texas, which I don't like doing, but credit to Texas. They make the plays in overtimes, and they win the game. They go from a 4th and 13 to 2 plays later, having, the foot on Arizona State's throat. You can't turn that around, but to miss that call, which could alter the game, there probably isn't even an overtime if they get that call right, the way Arizona State is trending. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for the sport that there's just a clear, the referees got the message. ACC refs, they got the or Big Ten refs, whichever they were, they got the message. We need that SEC team. We need that SEC brand in the semifinal. Because trust me, there's going to be no one's raising the question now whether the SEC should have had as many bids in the college football playoff as they should. In fact, that dickwad Lane Kiffin is still running his mouth because he beat mighty Duke. Oh, congrats, buddy. You beat Duke. Maybe try beating all the basketball schools on your schedule and you'd be in the CFP. But Texas needs a blown call to stay alive. Tennessee, blown out. Alabama, you were arguing about them needing to be in there. Lose to a bad Michigan team. How about Georgia? They didn't stand a chance against an independent, against a team that has refused to win big bowl games the last quarter century. The SEC is completely lost in this college football playoff. And if the Big Ten refs get that call right, they don't have a team in the semifinals. But alas, here we are. They don't get the call right in the eyes of the sport, but in the eyes of the powers that be, they do get the call right. Brett Yormark, stand up for us. You might be our only hope to get what's right, get justice, not just for Arizona State, not just for the Big 12, but for everybody else outside of Dixie. Save us, please. Baylor's got a big-time basketball game. Number 3 team in the country, Iowa State. They're traveling up to Ames tomorrow. Let's get you caught up on that. Coming up next on Locked On Baylor. It's almost time for the playoffs in the NFL, but there's still time to cash in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. It's got so many different ways for you to pick up that win. So easy, even I can do it, okay? You don't just need to pick a winner. You can pick, which players to score a touchdown, how many points each team will score. Therefore, you're rooting for offense. You're rooting for the fun part, and you're winning alongside. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. The Baylor Bears are 1-0 in conference play in men's basketball. But maybe they shouldn't be 1-0 in the conference, because I don't know if Utah should count as a Big 12 basketball game. It just shouldn't. This Utah team, Lord help them, they are going to be somewhere near the bottom. And especially this, with what we saw in the non-conference from some of those teams picked to finish at the bottom of the Big 12. Colorado beat UConn. West Virginia beat Gonzaga, and now Kansas. They're plucky. UCF goes on the road in the conference opener against a tough Tech team, and Grant McCaslin gets the win there. Good win for Johnny Dawkins' team. That caused a lot of headaches in the Big 12 last year. And Baylor just rolls all over Utah. It's a game I had to watch after the fact because, of course, it was on right around the same time as the Texas Bowl, so I was more locked into that. But a tough game for our guy Miro. Oh, buddy. The return to Waco does not go as planned. Look, I'm a Miro fan. I'm wishing the best for him, but a little goose egg for the starting guard, Miro Little. 0 of 9 from the floor, 0 of 5 from 3. Did have 3 assists and a rebound in 25 minutes. Tough homecoming for Miro. I hope it gets better for him. But my old partner on the radio, Matt Mosley, said, I wish they had just given him a layup, just given him something, like Brett Favre sitting down for Strahan, just like give him the lane, like it's the Special Olympics or something. Miro does not get that treatment. And this Utah team, oh boy, they could not hit the broadside of a barn. I mean, this shooting night that Baylor had would have lost a ton of games. They were 9 of 32 from 3, 41% from the floor in general, but Utah was that much worse. 21 of 66 from the floor, 32%, and 7 of 30 from 3, so even worse than Baylor, 23%. This is a Utah team that I don't expect to hang with most teams in this conference. Probably going to be a long year for them. As for the Bears, it's a nice win to have under your belt as you head into the real games, because it starts tomorrow. It's Rio on Saturday, 1 p.m. Central. You have got number 25 Baylor on the road at number 3 Iowa State. Hopefully, you've got the element of surprise and you're sneaking up on them. Iowa State's been focused on football. Baylor's been focused on football. Maybe, but probably not. This Iowa State team is really good. Really good. I thought they were better than Houston to start the season. They have shown to start the season that they are better than Houston. But weirdly, I think Baylor is 8-2 in the last 10 matchups against Iowa State where they were both ranked, which does go into a great one last year. The regular season game anyway. Obviously, Bears were blown out in the Big 12 tournament, but that wild game at the Pavilion last year, you guys remember that? Baylor was up big. They were playing their best game of the year, and then Jeb Hartness just ejects Scott Drew for some reason, and Iowa State goes on a 20-0 run. Baylor comes back. I mean, the place was up for grabs. Jaden Nunn with the layup to go ahead. And then my guy, whose name I don't even try to pronounce anymore, hits the 3 at the buzzer that gets waved off. It's an all-time classic at the Foster Pavilion. One of the top 5 games ever played in the long, illustrious history of the Foster Pavilion. And the Bears score a huge win. But the problem I have with Baylor so far this year is I don't know what their identity is yet. Like, for as much as I love the roster coming into this season, I think the question marks surrounding their identity and their play style for me outweighs the confidence that I have in the roster and the players. And as an extension, the coaching staff. Because we talk about 4 new starters for this team. It's also 4 new assistant coaches, like the top 4 guys on your bench alongside Scott Drew. So it was great that Scott stayed. We all love that. He turns down Kentucky to stay. But you lose Alvin Brooks and John Jacobs and Bill Peterson. And like there's a lot that you lose in that process. And therefore, you're seeing the results of it. You don't have an identity yet. The last 5-6 years, you've been an elite offensive team, high ball screens, one of the best 3-point shooting teams in America. Some years, the best 3-point shooting team in America. You don't have that anymore. You don't. Jeremy Roach, good, solid 3-point shooter. Jaden Nunn, solid 3-point shooter. Outside of that, Celestine's been hurt or got hurt. He doesn't give you much beyond the arc. Obviously, VJ's not much of a shooter. Nor Chad O'Meara, much as he might think he's a shooter, is not that. He's just a double-double machine, not a 3-point shooter, although he hit one against Utah. And I don't know where you're at defensively. They've tried to be a man team. It didn't work. I don't know how far a zone team gets you in the Big 12. It certainly doesn't get you competing for Big 12 championships. It doesn't get you in the running for an Elite Eight every year. And I just don't know where they're at with that. They've tried so many different defenses in the non-con, and it didn't work. And the other thing is Iowa State doesn't lose at home. They've won 26 straight home games. In fact, they are. I think that's the longest streak in America, and right behind them is UConn, who you also didn't beat on the road in a game that was winnable. So I look at Iowa State's length and their defense, and Keyshawn Gilbert specifically. That's a tough team to crack, especially in your second game in the conference when you're struggling for an identity. Now, it wasn't that long ago. Baylor was actually a good team at Hilton. No one else was, but I think they won in Hilton like 3 straight years when I was early in my Baylor career, which was a long time ago now. But you got to go back to 2022, which was the year that they played there on New Year's Day, the same day Baylor was in the Sugar Bowl, to show you how long ago that was. And it was a top 10 matchup. Baylor was number 1 in the country in basketball, and Iowa State was number 10, and the Bears walked out of there with a double-digit victory. It's a far cry from that team, but I still think there's plenty of potential with this squad. I just don't know where they're at yet. I just don't have the confidence to go in there and say, hey, they're going to go win in Hilton tomorrow. I wish I could, but I see a small team that can get gritty at times, but not all the time. And I look at the length and athleticism that a team like Iowa State, some of the top teams in this Big 12, can roll out. And I think that's a struggle. I think that's a struggle for this team. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about this game tomorrow. Let me know what you think about Brett Yormark and sticking up for the Big 12. Let me know down in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe. We're trying to get up to 4,000 subscribers, and we are well on our way, but we need your help. A lot of you that watch every day still are not subscribed. It helps out the channel a lot. So does the like on the video. Truly, it helps it out a lot. But also, you can ring that notification bell to get notified every time we're dropping a video on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you pretty soon here on your favorite show. Thanks for making it your first listen today and every day. We'll see you around the corner on Locked On Baylor.